Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jayoradha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jayoradha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaredari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaredari Yashodanandana Raja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Raja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jayaradha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayaradha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashto Tarashata Sri Srimad Abhaya Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashto Tarashata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vatsati Gora Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopi Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Maturadam Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Navadam Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puridam Ki Jai. Gita Nagari Dam Ki Jai. Gangamayi Jamunamayi Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sen Kirtan Ki Jai. Grantharaj Shri Mad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to ISKCON founder Acharya His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Jaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Shrinvatam Svagata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Pradhyanta Sto Yabhadrani Vidhunoti Suhrit Satam Nashtapraishva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Yutama Shroke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Shrila Vyasadeva, the author. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses the desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. We are reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 11, entitled The Perfect Society for Social Classes, Text 3 and 4. Bear with me here while I get situated. Text 3. Bhavan Prajapate Sakshat Atmaja Parameshtinaha Sutanam Sabato Brahmam Tapo Yoga Samadhihi Bhavan Prajapate Sakshat Atmaja Parameshtinaha Sutanam Samato Brahmam Tato Yoga Tapo Yoga Samadhihi Bhavan Prajapate Sakshat Atmaja Parameshtinaha Sutanam Samato Brahmam Tapo Yoga Samadhihi. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. O best of the Brahmanas, you are directly the son of Prajapati, Lord Brahma. Because of your austerities, mystic yoga, and trance, you are considered the best of all of Lord Brahma's sons. This is, I believe, Maharaj Yudhishthira is speaking to Narada Muni. Text 4. Hare Krishna. Narayana para vipra dharmam guyam param viruhu karuna sadhava shantas tvadvidhana tata pare. Narayana para vipra dharmam guyam param viruhu karuna sadhava shantas tvadvidhana tata pare. Narayana para vipra dharmam guyam param viruhu karuna sadhava shantas tvad vidhana tata pare. Would anyone like to attempt to chant this verse?
Narayana Paravipra Dharman Guyam Param Vidu Karunaha Sattvaha Santas Twadvidha Natatar Pare.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada has told us that these verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, other Shastra, they're actually mantras. And by chanting them, we derive the same sort of benefit that one might receive by chanting mantras such as the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam is actually Krishna himself in literary form. And chanting the shlokas of Srimad Bhagavatam is also glorification of Krishna, just like chanting his names. So it's very beneficial, very purifying, very wonderful. The synonyms: Narayana Para, those who are always devoted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan. Vipraha, the best of the Brahmanas. Dharmam, religious principle. Guyam, the most confidential. Param, supreme. Virahu, no. Karunaha, such persons are very merciful, being devotees. Sadhavaha, whose behavior is very exalted. Shantaha, peaceful. Tat vitaha, like your honor. Na, not. Tata, so. Pare, others, followers of methods other than devotional service. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, ISKCON founder Acharya, His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. No one is superior to you in peaceful life and mercy, and no one knows better than you how to execute devotional service or how to become the best of the Brahmanas. Therefore, you know all the principles of confidential religious life, and no one knows them better than you. Report. Yudhishthir Maharaj knew that Narada Muni is the supreme spiritual master of human society, who can teach the path of spiritual liberation, leading to the understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Actually, it is for this purpose that Narada Muni compiled his Bhakti Sutra and gave directions in the Narada Pancharatra. To learn about religious principles and the perfection of life, one must take instruction from the disciplic succession of Narada Muni. Our Krishna consciousness movement is directly in the line of the Brahma Sampradaya. Narada Muni received instructions from Lord Brahma, and in turn transmitted the instructions to Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva instructed his son, Shukadev Goswami, who spoke Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm sorry, I failed to put the purport up. The Krishna consciousness movement is based on Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Because Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken by Shukadev Goswami and Bhagavad Gita was spoken by Krishna, there is no difference between them. If we strictly follow the principle of disciplic succession, we are certainly on the right path of spiritual liberation or eternal engagement in devotional service. I will review the translations. Text 3. O best of the Brahmanas, you are directly the son of Prajapati, Lord Brahma. Because of your austerities, mystic yoga, and trance, you are considered the best of all of Lord Brahma's sons. Text 4. No one is superior to you in peaceful life and mercy, and no one knows better than you how to execute devotional service or how to become the best of the Brahmanas. Therefore, you know all the principles of confidential religious life, and no one knows them better than you. Hare Krishna. Om Agyanatimarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutare Swayam Rupa Kedamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Brijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Ladita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Brindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Hare Krishna. I'm going to try to quickly locate something here. Bear with me for a moment. Hare Krishna.
Who is iPhone 9?
I thought I would read a little bit of the Narada Bhakti Sutra, which Srila Prabhupada mentions in his purport. He says that Narada Muni is the supreme spiritual master of human society who can teach the path of spiritual liberation leading to the understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Actually, it is for this purpose that Narada Muni compiled his Bhakti Sutra and gave instructions in the Narada Pancharatra. I don't, not sure if I have the Narada Pancharatra handy. However, I do have the Narada Bhakti Sutra. In 1967, Srila Prabhupada translated and wrote purports for 13 of the 84 verses of Narada Bhakti Sutra. So he did not complete it, but it was something that he had an interest in doing. In 1989, at the annual GBC meeting, the GBC discussed this and suggested that the book be completed. This was, 1989, of course, this was after Srila Prabhupada's passing. So we had the beginning translated and with commentary by Srila Prabhupada. So there was a feeling that, we should not let Srila Prabhupada's words go to waste. We want to ensure that the devotees have access to all of what was given to us by Srila Prabhupada. So the suggestion was to complete the book with commentary by Srila Prabhupada's prominent disciples. In this case, I think primarily it was Satsvarup Maharaj. Gopi Pranadhana Prabhu, very expert Sanskritist, also helped with the translations and so on. And the net result was very wonderful. I thought I would read at least the 13 verses that Srila Prabhupada translated himself and commented on. That may actually be overly ambitious because his purports are extensive. We don't have a lot of time, but since I have nothing prepared for speaking today, at least we can do this. I think it will be fruitful. So Narada Bhakti Sutra consists of 84 aphorisms. It is described, or sutras. Sutras are very concise statements that one can unpack. They are full of meaning, but expressed very concisely. So the first sutra reads as follows: Atato bhaktim vyakhya syamaha. Very concise. It's a total of 3 words. The translation given by Srila Prabhupada is as follows: Now, therefore, I will try to explain the process of devotional service. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is explained in the Bhagavad Gita, where the Lord says that a self-realized person is always in the transcendental state known as Brahma Bhuta. That, by the way, is we have in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 30th chapter, text 20. The translation is always engaging in the activities of devotional service. Devotees feel ever increasingly fresh and new in all their activities. The all-knower, the all-knower, the super soul within the heart of the devotee makes everything increasingly fresh. This is known as the Brahman position by the advocates of the absolute truth. In such a liberated stage, Brahmabhuta, one is never bewildered, nor does one lament or become unnecessarily jubilant. This is due to the Brahmabhuta situation. So, Srila Prabhupada says, a self-realized person is always in the transcendental state known as Brahmabhuta, which is characterized by joyfulness. When one is self-realized, he becomes joyful. In other words, he is free from the material contamination of lamentation and hankering. As long as we are in material existence, we lament for the losses in our life and hanker for that which we do not have. A self-realized person is joyful because he is free from material lamentation and hankering. A self-realized person also sees all living entities equally. For him, there is no distinction between the higher and lower species of life. It is also stated that a learned man does not distinguish between a wise Brahmana and a dog, because he sees the soul within the body, not the external bodily features. Such a perfected, self-realized person becomes eligible to understand bhakti or devotional service to the Lord. Bhakti is so sublime that only through bhakti can one understand the constitutional position of the Lord. That is clearly stated in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 55, which goes as follows. Bhakyamam abhijanati yavanyashchasmi tatvataha tato mam tatvato gyatva vishate taranantaram. One can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Srila Prabhupada goes on to say, one can understand the Supreme Lord through devotional service and by no other process. There are different processes of understanding the absolute truth. But if a person wants to understand the Supreme Lord as he is, he has to take to the process of bhakti yoga. There are other mystic processes such as karma yoga, jnana yoga, and dhyana yoga. But it is not possible to understand the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, except through his devotional service. This is confirmed in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, text 3. Sevayam meyate dya yoga prokta parantaha bhakto sime sakha cheti rahasyam yetar uttamam. That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you because you are my devotee as well as my friend and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. So Srila Prabhupada says from this verse, we learn that Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna simply because he was the Lord's devotee and friend. The Bhagavad Gita teaches the process of bhakti yoga, and therefore Lord Krishna explained it to Arjuna because he was a great devotee. As far as spiritual life is concerned, becoming a devotee of the Lord is the highest perfection. People are generally misled by the spell of the illusory energy of the material nature. There are innumerable living entities within the material nature, and only some of them are human beings. According to the Vedic literature, there are 8,400,000 species of life. In the Brahma Purana, it is said that there are 900,000 species of life in the water, 2 million species of plants, 1,100,000 species of insects and reptiles, 1 million species of birds, 3 million species of beasts, and only 400,000 species of human beings. So the humans are the least numerous species of all. All living entities can be divided into 2 divisions, those that can move and those that are stationary, such as trees. But there are also many further divisions. Some species fly in the air, some live in the water, and some live on the ground. Among the living entities who live on the ground, only 400,000 are human species. And out of these 400,000 human species, many are uncivilized or unclean. They are not up to the standard of proper civilization. From the historical point of view, the Aryans are the most civilized section of human beings. And among the Aryans, the Indians are especially highly cultured. And among the Indians, the Brahmanas are the most expert in knowledge of the Vedas. The Vedic culture is respected all over the world, and there are people everywhere eager to understand it. The highest perfectional stage of understanding Vedic culture is explained in the Bhagavad Gita in the 15th chapter, text 15, where the Lord says that the purpose of all the Vedas is to understand Him. Fortunate are those who are attracted to the Vedic cultural life. The Hindus call themselves followers of the Vedas. Some say they follow the Samaveda, and some say they follow the Rig Veda. Different people claim to follow different sections of the Vedas, but in fact, for the most part, they are not followers of the Vedas because they do not follow the rules and regulations of the Vedas. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya says that since the so-called followers of the Vedas perform all kinds of sinful activities, the number of actual followers of the Vedas is very small. And even among this small exclusive number, most are addicted to the processes described in the Vedas, Karma Kanda section, by which one can elevate oneself to the perfectional stage of economic development. The strict followers of Karma Kanda, the strict followers of the Karma Kanda portions of the Vedas perform various sacrifices for worship of different demigods in order to achieve particular material results. Out of many millions of such worshippers, some may actually engage in the process of understanding the Supreme, the Absolute Truth. They are called Gyanis. Perfection for a Gyani lies in attaining the stage of Brahmabhuta, or self-realization. Only after self-realization is attained does the stage of understanding devotional service begin. The conclusion is that one can begin the process of devotional service, or bhakti, when one is actually self-realized. One who is in the bodily concept of existence does not understand the process of devotional service. It is for this reason that the Narada Bhakti Sutra begins, "Now, therefore, I shall try to explain the process of devotional service." The word therefore indicates that this process of devotional service is for the self-realized soul, one who is already liberated. Similarly, the Vedanta Sutra begins, "Atato Brahma Jigyasa." The word Brahma Jigyasa refers to inquiry into the supreme absolute truth, and it is recommended for those who have been elevated from the lower stage of addiction to the Karma Kanda portion of the Vedas to the position of interest in the Jnana Kanda portion. Only when a person is perfectly situated in the realization that he is not the body, but a spirit soul, can he begin the process of bhakti, or devotional service. So this purport is humbling and sobering. It helps us to understand where we are actually situated, relatively speaking, in the process of the cultivation of Krishna consciousness. One may regard oneself as a devotee and engaged in devotional service, but actual devotional service begins from the platform of liberation. Prior to that, one is engaged in Vaidhi Bhakti, which Srila Prabhupada sometimes describes as a kind of practice. But he also says that there is actually no practice, but that by engaging in the activities of devotional service, one is quickly elevated to the platform of actual devotional service, your devotional service. We are 7 minutes prior to 8 o'clock. We have concluded the purport to the first sutra. Does anyone have any question or comment at this stage? I hear crickets. If you like, you can ask a question that is completely unrelated, and I will do my best to field the question. I have a question. My question is, where can I get free money? But I don't know the answer, so we're not going to discuss that. I'm going to fill the balance of our time by beginning to read the second sutra. We will not have time to complete the purport, but we have a digital hand. Yes,
Hare
Dina
Krishna,
Palika
sorry.
Prabhu. Hare,
Haribol.
Hare
Great
Krishna.
respect my obeisances. All glories to Prabhupada. I just wanted to say that it was really nice to just hear you read, and you have a really nice reading voice and tempo. And I'm appreciating that more and more as I try to listen to audiobooks, that it's like the speed really matters, how much we can like absorb, or at least me, I can absorb the material. So it's such a nice way to start the day, just hearing reading from Prabhupada's books.
Thank you for your kind words. I have lots to say about audiobooks, and maybe this is a good time to talk about audiobooks. Audiobooks are
Hey,
wonderful.
can I ask a question about audiobooks?
Fire away.
Okay, I sent you a long voice note on WhatsApp and it included this question, so let's just ask about it now. I'm wondering, so since the beginning of my Krishna consciousness, it's been, read 2 hours a day. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to have that facility and also have that instruction. But with my health, the way it is, and also my focus has kind of decreased with fatigue, and like I get really tired now whenever I try to focus and read. So I had asked Amrita Swami about it, or I kind of skirted the issue, but basically he said, yeah, you can read, listen to audiobooks, this and that. But in my mind, it's kind of like I just had categorized it as like a deficient experience. Like, no, you're supposed to read, look at the page and read. And then an audiobook is like, I don't know, somehow a deficient experience. So I'm just wondering if you can comment on that at all, if that's true, like if we're meant to, look at the page of Prabhupada's books, or if it's okay to like replace that time with listening. I mean, as long as we're not doing something, of course, if we're multitasking, yeah, we're probably not going to be focusing, but just listening to audiobook.
I have lots to say on this subject, and I have lots of experience with this. Um, I myself have health issues that are sometimes devastating. There was a period of time when I was so weak physically that I could not chant, um, and I couldn't hold a book. I couldn't focus my eyes and read. I have a condition which at times even cognitive exertion will produce a terrible backlash, causing me to become profoundly weak, and it just compounds itself. Um, During one protracted period of extreme illness, This was a few decades ago, but for 5 years, I was bedbound, unable to chant most of the time. Um, I chanted as much as I could, but I was able to hear, and so I did a great deal of hearing. Hearing, of course, is one of the 9 processes of devotional service. Um, Reading is also hearing. What is important about reading is that you're hearing the message. You, it's it's whether it comes in through your ears or it comes in through your eyes, you're receiving a message and processing it, parsing the words, understanding the meaning, contemplating the meaning. Um, how precisely the message gets in is not particularly important. There is no difference between hearing transcendental words spoken, hearing orally. If you hear the words of your spiritual master, he speaks, and you give oral reception, the sound vibration enters your ears and into your heart, whether you hear in that way or you hear by seeing the written words and processing them into the message, and it enters your heart in that way. There is no difference. If you perceive a difference, that it is only a matter of perception. You are thinking there's a difference, but there is no difference. And because there's no difference, the effect is identical. The effect is the same. If there appears to be some deficiency, there may, in fact, actually be a reduction in the effect because of the manner in which we process the message. When we read, the way the process of reading works, it can serve to intensify our focus on the message. When we are hearing with our ears, audibly hearing, listening, it is possible uh, to have a portion of our consciousness distracted by other things. You can hear attentively or you can hear inattentively. You can also read inattentively, but typically, in order to read and understand, you have to engage more of your cognitive functions with attention. If you are reading and not actually assimilating what you are reading, you quickly realize that the message is not coming across. You pass through a sentence and you realize, I don't actually understand what that sentence meant. And so you go back and you read the sentence again. And you do that as many times as necessary until the meaning sinks in. If we are having difficulty to read attentively due to tiredness or ill health, then we'll have lots of experience of that process of sometimes having to read things over and over again because somehow it just doesn't sink in. Sometimes it just becomes a blur on the page. Sometimes the words just don't mean anything. So you read again and again until it sinks in. When you're hearing audibly, you can also be distracted. You don't always necessarily have the opportunity to go back and review. If you're sitting in class, your spiritual master is speaking. If you miss something or your mind wanders for a moment and you miss something that he said, there is not the opportunity to rewind and review what was said. You missed it, you missed it. Hopefully it was recorded and you'll have a chance to go back to the recording later. It is possible to listen to an audio recording and do something else at the same time. And there isn't necessarily something wrong with that. It's very ideal if one can hear with complete attention without any portion of your attention being diverted to other things. But sometimes, not just sometimes, typically daily, we have to do various things. We can't spend all of our time just sitting and hearing or reading. There are different tasks that we have to address. Some of those tasks are relatively mindless. And so you can, for example, brush your teeth and simultaneously listen to a recorded lecture. And so rather than having your mind wandering, contemplating nasty bodily functions or useless subject matters, you can have your mind engaged in wonderful transcendental devotional service, hearing the message of Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, hearing the narrations of the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya and so on. One can do that and simultaneously brush your teeth, shave, shower, or whatever, driving, or washing dishes, or even cooking, cleaning, whatever it may be. And by doing so, you benefit tremendously. It's a very good thing. Hearing while doing something is vastly superior to doing that same task without hearing. But depending upon what it is that you're doing, it may detract to some extent from your attention to receiving the message. So the deficiency that you may perceive may be real, and it may be attributable to the fact that some portion of your attention is diverted, because it's easy to have your attention diverted when you are hearing only. As I say, when you're reading, more of your faculties are engaged in the process, and that intensifies your attention. So there are practical differences between reading and hearing in that way, in the way in which you have to apply yourself to the process. But the effect otherwise is the same. There's no difference. There would be virtually no difference were it not for the fact that we may not apply ourselves to the same degree. I hope I made that clear. Now there are, I'll tell you that there are a lot of wonderful recordings that are very worthwhile to hear, and they are absolutely not deficient relative to actual reading. It is the age-old process. Since time immemorial, spiritual masters have been sharing the transcendental message of Godhead with disciples. And in other ages, it is done merely by speaking and oral reception. No need for reading, because in earlier ages, people were more qualified. They could hear with absolutely rapt attention and with perfect comprehension and with perfect recall. They would be able to remember everything that was spoken with perfect clarity. In Kali Yuga, that becomes difficult or impossible. And it's for that reason that Vyasadeva wrote down the Vedic literature. It existed in oral form prior to that time. But in anticipation of the disqualification of human beings in Kali Yuga, Vyasadeva committed the Vedic literature to writing so that those who don't have the capacity to hear once and remember can read again and again till it sinks in. I mention this because it is clear evidence that there is no difference between hearing and reading. In other ages, there is no necessity to read. Hearing alone is sufficient. It is only in Kali Yuga that we need to read because we can't hear so well. Did that answer your question, or did it fully answer your question? Is there more that I should cover?
Hare Krishna. Yeah, that was great. Sorry, there's a chainsaw going on in the background. I hope you can hear me. It was great. I was thinking just while you were speaking that yeah, I try to listen to things while listen to Krishna conscious content while I'm doing other things. I was just thinking that there is still value and also trying to fulfill that instruction that I would like to have set time just with Krishna instead of multitasking, just with Krishna in the form of, Bhagavatam or Srila Prabhupada's books, instead of just, at least for me, that it could be a bit of a slippery slope. Oh, yeah, I can do things. I can just listen while I'm doing other things. But I personally feel that that might, it's good as a supplementary activity, but if I make it the main thing, then it might detract from, just totally focusing on Krishna in that moment by just listening, having set time to just hear or read if I can. Does that make sense?
Yes, to have a set time and to a set time during which you devote yourself to, strictly to hearing is very ideal. You can't beat that. But the important thing is that you hear by one means or another. You must hear. Srila Prabhupada's instruction is that all of his disciples must, and not just his disciples, of course, but one should read the books. He said at least an hour a day. At other times, he said 2 hours, an hour or two a day. Srila Prabhupada's disciples or accepting disciples have their own standards. They apply different standards to different disciples according to the individual. But if you can sit down and scrupulously study the books, that's very nice. If circumstantially, due to health or engagement, it's not possible to do that, then you hear however you can, and you do it in the best way that you can. I can tell you that early in the history of ISKCON, there was a time when devotees were so fully engaged, there was actually virtually no opportunity to read. The only way you could read was that you had to lose sleep. You had to stay up late or get up extra early. Otherwise, there was no place to find time to read. Devotees on Sankirtan, book distributors, sometimes would take breaks and just read. I was often engaged with kirtan parties that took no breaks. we would take a break for prasad uh, at midday, and during that time, just as any other time when we were honoring prasad, one devotee would read while everyone else honored prasad. So our hearing consisted of Srimad Bhagavatam class in the morning. We heard a reading while honoring prasad. We heard again in the evening Bhagavad Gita class, which also consisted of 10 or 15 minutes of reading Nectar of Devotion. And then afterwards, there was hot milk, prasad served, and somebody would read from Krishna book while we had hot milk. So there was plenty of hearing, but individual reading often did not happen. Some individuals were fortunate to have the time to read. Those individuals went on to become very advanced devotees, by the way, and typically they are now initiating disciples. Others who didn't get the opportunity to do that remained mediocre individuals like myself. Amongst those who did lots of individual reading and quickly became qualified to give extraordinary classes, there were numerous in our New York temple. One in particular was Jayadvaita, brahmachari at the time, now sannyasi, of course, close friend and confidant. Last he was visiting here with me. Typically whenever we see one another, we will inquire, what are you reading currently? Anxious to hear, realizations and thoughts, and on this last occasion, Jayadvaita Swami was talking about, with great excitement and enthusiasm, he was raving about listening to an audio recording. Keshava Bharati Maharaj has put together an audio recording of the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita. Coincidentally, I also was listening to that recording while bathing and doing other things. At times when I can't be holding a book, but I can hear. So I try to make sure that that there's no slack time without something going on. So I was also listening to it. So we had an interesting exchange about our appreciations of how extraordinarily wonderful it is to hear that recording. There are various factors that one may take into consideration. The message is itself wonderful, but who delivers the message is a significant factor. Hearing a narration or a reading from just anybody is not the same as hearing from a devotee and a realized soul. Depending upon the degree of the advancement of the individual who is reading, you'll get more or less out of it. And you certainly don't want to hear the message from a non-devotee. The message is wonderful by itself, but milk touched by the lips of a serpent can have a poisonous effect. You want to hear it from the lips of a devotee, and the more advanced, the better. So Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita from the lips of Keshava Bharati Maharaj is sufficiently wonderful that it is greatly appreciated by a soul as advanced as Jayadvaita Swami. So that's a very, very big endorsement. Anyway, we've lost nearly all of our audience. I should probably stop.
Thank you, Tarka Prabhu.
Sure, it's a pleasure. It's a great question. I'm delighted to have the opportunity to discuss that. I think that's valuable for everybody. I personally recommend hearing recordings very, very highly. I've done it my entire life as a devotee, and it has been transcendently wonderful. During the period of time when I was particularly ill, the hearing that I did during that time absolutely transformed my life in indescribable ways. It was the most transformative period of my entire life. It was, materially speaking and physically speaking, the most difficult time of my life. I was close to death all of every day for years, but the hearing made it the most ecstatic time of my entire devotional life. And it was the period of time during which I made the most advancement ever. It was absolutely extraordinary. Um, I did not do much reading. I did do, actually, I shouldn't say, I actually did a lot of reading during that period of time, but I heard recordings of Srila Prabhupada constantly, all day, every waking minute of every day. I had recordings of Srila Prabhupada going, and actually not just waking. I always have kirtan going while I'm sleeping. Um, and I've done that consistently for my entire devotional life for 50 some odd years. There's never been a minute of the day that I don't have a recording of Srila Prabhupada going. Except during Srimad Bhagavatam class, I pause the recordings so that I can hear Srimad Bhagavatam class attentively. Otherwise, I always have something going on. Even if I know that my attention is going to be focused on something else, and the recording is going to become background, I still keep it going. And I don't consider that to be offensive. Sometimes it's not possible to be very attentive in hearing in that way, but my practical experience is that anytime I don't have Srila Prabhupada sound vibration entering my ears, my mind, which is incredibly energetic and active, will immediately start. My mind turns into a three-ring circus. It's unbelievable the crap that goes on up there, wild as anything, and it's bad. It's really bad. My mind is full of incredible nonsense. But if I have Srila Prabhupada, uh, a recording of Srila Prabhupada chanting a bhajan, a kirtan, um, um, lectures. For lectures, I will listen attentively. But if I have to do something else and I can't really pay attention to a lecture, I will just have a kirtan or a bhajan going. And as long as that sound vibration is entering my ears, my mind goes quiet. It just shuts up. I don't have the three-ring circus going on. There's not, monkeys and clowns, flying all over the place. It's just, quiet, and I find that addictive. I don't like the clowns and monkeys flying all over the place. I prefer the peace and quiet. So my mind just it just falls into line as long as I hear Srila Prabhupada. And so I always have Srila Prabhupada playing 24/7 while I'm sleeping all the time. It's just always going on. I'm going to stop and tend to other business. I thank you for putting up with me. Is there anything else before I go?
I don't have anything else. Thank you so much, Sharka Prabhu.
Okay. Thank you again for your wonderful question. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. His Divine Grace, his founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Damodar ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrind ki jai. Hare Krishna.